The next chapter we'll be discussing for the mechanical code is Chapter 3, General Requirements. As with all equipment supplied, provisions have got to be made for maintenance and repair personnel to be able to service and maintain their equipment on a periodic schedule. Not to get too far into the electrical requirements, but a positive means of disconnect must be located adjacent to and within sight of the equipment so that the repairman or the maintenance personnel may safely disconnect the power from the equipment that they are planning on servicing. Additionally, a 120 volt receptacle must be provided within approximately 25 feet on the line side of the disconnect in order to allow the maintenance or the service personnel the ability to plug in power tools or any other types of equipment they may need to facilitate the repairs or the servicing of the equipment. The electrical construction obviously has got to comply with the California Energy Code, and obviously the model code for that is NFPA 70. Similar to many other materials used in construction, especially plumbing materials, mechanical materials such as listed pipe fittings, appliances, appurtenances, any equipment, materials, and other devices used in the mechanical system must be listed or labeled by a listed agency and must comply with the applicable recognized reference standards contained in the mechanical code. Marking, obviously, is the method for identifying whether or not these materials are in fact listed. And the code requires that each length of pipe, each fitting, all material and devices used in the mechanical system must have the manufacturer's mark or name either cast, stamped, or indelibly marked upon the materials, readily identifying the actual manufacturer of the materials. Similar to the 2019 edition of the California Plumbing Code, the 2019 edition of the California Mechanical Code has also had a new table added to Chapter 17, which is Table 1701.2. This table identifies additional material standards which may be used by design professionals when they determine alternate materials and methods of construction are going to be proposed for the use on the particular project. And obviously, if they want the materials or the methods proposed to be compliant with the California Mechanical Code, they have this particular new resource to draw material standards from in order to be compliant with the 2019 version of the code. The California Mechanical Code also includes some general requirements for installation of a variety of components, equipment, and systems, etc. Basically, appliances and equipment have got to be installed with, obviously, the code requirements, any listings that they're designed to comply with, and also as a new amendment to the 2019 Mechanical Code, similar to what we've seen in the new 2019 amendments to the Plumbing Code. The installation has got to comply with the manufacturer's installation instructions. And as we've discussed previously, this only makes sense because the manufacturers are the experts for what they've actually designed, and they know best how to install their equipment, their components. Along those same lines, it's critical that the installer leaves the O&M manuals, or the installation and operating instructions, sometimes called the operation and maintenance manuals, attached to the appliance. And it's a good idea for the product inspector to retain copies of these and retain them in the appropriate folder in their job file, and ensure that these particular O&M manuals are distributed to the owner at the time that the project is signed off. Another consideration is to ensure that the clearances that are required for listed appliances to be maintained from combustible materials has got to comply with both their listing and the information located on the appliance's rating plate. Adequate clearances for appliances that are located on roofs, or actually anywhere, must be provided, but specifically on roofs. Any enclosures must maintain a minimum of 30-inch clearance between the service access panels and the appliance itself. The mechanical code stipulates that when equipment or appliances are located on the roof, that they must be protected by a 42-inch high minimum guardrail if the equipment is located within 6 feet of the roof edge. As we discussed previously in the plumbing code, this is a conflict. It conflicts with the California Building Code, which stipulates in section 1015.6 that any equipment that is within 10 feet minimum of the edge of the roof has got to be protected by a 42-inch high minimum guardrail. And because this particular reference in the CBC is more restrictive, it governs or overrides this conflicting code in the California Mechanical Code. So it's important to remember this conflict. Continuing with requirements for appliances located on roofs, there must be a readily accessible disconnecting means provided within sight of the equipment. And again, readily accessible means that it does not require any opening of any boxes, doors, covers, etc. That the disconnecting means is readily accessible without removing anything and is certainly viewable or within sight. Additionally, as we previously discussed, for other equipment not located on roofs, that 120 volt AC grounding type receptacle outlet's got to be provided on the roof, adjacent to the equipment, and on the line side of the disconnect switch for the same reasons we previously stated, which is providing the ability for the maintenance or service personnel to plug in maintenance or service equipment that they might need in the performance of their duties. Just to reiterate the importance relating to accessibility for service, clearances have got to be provided to facilitate inspection and as well as service or repair of equipment and appliances. And the image on the left depicts a giant mechanical room that includes several pieces of equipment with several components that will require servicing and repair during its lifetime. So it's extremely important that that these areas remain open for the safety of the repair and the maintenance personnel. Generally speaking, equipment and appliances have got to be located in areas that actually permit access. The minimum working space required for access, whether it's the depth, width, and the height for access, is 30 inches minimum in each of those areas. Clearances to the equipment needs to be provided for situations such as cleaning heating surfaces, replacing filters, blowers, motors, burners, controls, and vent connections, lubricating moving parts, adjusting and cleaning burners, pilots, and also ensuring the proper functioning of explosion vents where provided. In attics, passageways and platforms must also be provided to facilitate access. With respect to any condensate wastes and controls that are provided for equipment, Section 310 of the California Mechanical Code basically reiterates the requirements that were also discussed in the California Plumbing Code, Section 814. For hangers and supports, we have a very similar important issue relating to any type of hangers or supports for mechanical equipment, and it is similar to what we also discussed in the California Plumbing Code for hangers and supports. And that is that the California Administrative Code, Section 4-317B, clearly stipulates that any hangers, bracings, and support that is required for equipment or appliances must be provided on the actual plans. If there is a situation where this information is not provided on the plans and subsequent plan sheets are provided or details provided by the design team, since these particular components deal specifically with the structural concerns associated with the mechanical equipment, these subsequently provided details are going to be required to be reviewed and approved by DSA plan review staff or DSA staff in general prior to implementing those particular hanger or support configurations on the project. And this is generally going to be done via a construction change document. Continuing with some hanger and support requirements, obviously piping and tubing has got to be isolated from any incompatible materials. Suspended piping, tubing, appliances, or appurtenances must also be supported per the California Mechanical Code, the manufacturer's installation instructions, and any other directions provided by the authority having jurisdiction. Suspended piping or tubing must also be supported at minimum intervals which are in compliance with Table 313.3, and obviously alignment has got to be maintained, and sagging is not permitted. Continuing with hanger and support requirements, the hanger rod sizes themselves are required to comply with Table 313.6. And any gas piping which is being supported must be supported by metal straps or hooks at minimum intervals which comply with Table 1311.2.4.1, which is located in the fuel gas chapter, Chapter 13 of the California Mechanical Code. Additionally, underground piping or tubing is required to be laid on a firm bed for its entire length. The California Mechanical Code continues to require that all heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, which includes hydronic systems, must be balanced. And contractors are permitted to use one of a variety of methods to perform this. One of them is using the Associated Air Balance Council's publication known as the National Standards for Total System Balance. They're also permitted to use the Air Conditioning Contractors of America's Manual B. The American Society of Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Engineers publication number 111 may also be used. The National Environmental Balancing Bureau utilizes a publication known as the Procedural Standards for Testing, Adjusting, Balancing of Environmental Systems, and the Sheet Metal and Air Conditioning Contractors National Association's publication is HVAC Systems Testing, Adjusting, and Balancing.